Hello. I thought today I would talk about the secret of enlightenment. And it is a bit of a secret because actually not many people know much about what the heck it is. We've probably, the more thoughtful among us, have probably heard about it or tried to read about it somewhere. And there's a lot of literature which is not very good. It doesn't actually tell you what the heck they're talking about. It waffles and waffles and waffles. And I thought it's about time we got some clarity on the subject. And I'm someone who's read zillions of books on the subject, and it took years for me to suddenly, I know what it is, right? Because so many of the books are terrible, just terrible. So that's today's vlog, or even this week's, because I can't do that many vlogs. I try to keep the quality up. That means quantity down, because I'm not just going to do a vlog for the sake of filling up a gap. I only want to do them when I think I've got something to say, really. I'm not doing a newspaper where I have to print some rubbish just to fill the page every day, so there you go. I'll talk rubbish in my own time, right? And actually, as an aside, when I started doing these vlogs, I thought they were going to be short. I'm not the world's most talkative person, yet it seems I can waffle on for ages on an interesting subject. Well, that's fine. I think if there's something to say, it's worth saying, you know. So, enlightenment. The secret of enlightenment. I'll start by just summarising exactly what it is, but I'll go into more detail later because it's not going to make a lot of sense, right? I've written it down here just so I get it right. This is my opinion. Lots of people say vaguely different things going around the same area, but I'm very sure that I am about right. Okay. It is being objective about your thoughts and inner experiences. And most people will hear that and go, huh? Being objective about your thoughts and your inner experiences. The majority of people, of course, think that they are objective about their thoughts and inner experiences. I can assure you, there's a 99.99% chance, if you think that, you are wrong. Okay. I'll discuss it in more detail. But I want to talk about, first of all, the reasons why people obfuscate it so much and why it is a secret of enlightenment. There are good reasons and there are bad reasons for it. The good reasons is primarily it's been kept secret for certainly for historical reasons. First of all, in the old days, if you wanted to be a philosopher and not get your head chopped off by the powers that be for saying outrageously thoughtful things, you had better become a priest or somebody of that sort. And this is why enlightenment is kind of bound up with religion. It's nothing to do with religion. It's a philosophical and psychological phenomena, or yes, phenomena, I suppose. It's a psychological thing, a philosophical idea. It's a way of living. It's nothing to do with religion as such. Though Buddhism, of course, is totally bound up with it. Buddhism is the closest religion to a pure philosophy, I think, that I'm aware of. And they have lots of ideas that they've tied in with it, like reincarnation and stuff, which probably came from Hinduism or something. But the psychological technique of enlightenment is a psychological technique. You can do it no matter what your religion or no religion. It's nothing to do with God or gods or any of that sort of thing. It's purely a mental phenomenon. And yes, in the old days, if you were a bit too outspoken with your philosophy, you would get into serious trouble. It can still happen in many parts of the world. And so what people did, they became a priest or a monk, and they would have their intellectual discussions with like-minded people, basically. The other good reason is that enlightenment makes you a far more powerful and effective person. You become much more objective and much more focused on your goals. Many people don't really even have a clear idea of what their goals in life are. With enlightenment, it kind of becomes clear. At least it did for me. My goals are inner goals rather than outer ones. I do want to improve the world and make it a better place before I go. And maybe these vlogs will help. That's my little bit. It's something that's within my power. Other than that, I try and do my job well and so on. Okay, that's me, you. It may be different. Everybody's different. But the thing about enlightenment, and the reason it's been kept secret, is because this kind of focus and mental clarity is dangerous when it's in the wrong heads. There are sociopaths and nasty people out there who will abuse it, and in the past people in the enlightenment field, if you like, were always rather careful to pick their pupils cautiously and make sure that they were decent people in the first place. We can't do that in the modern world because the world is in such a terrible mess and crisis. It's close to self-destruction in any of dozens of ways. We really just have to let the cat out of the bag and hope that the good people can outweigh the bad. I don't think there's any option anymore. The world is going to be ruined or destroyed unless we get clear thinking in enough people, basically. And even then, we're not secure. So, the secret is being allowed out. And some people will figure it out for themselves anyway, of course. But they're going to be philosophical types who are interested usually in doing the right thing anyway, for the most part. If that sort of person kind of is that kind of way inclined normally. But why are there so many bad books on the subject? I mean, I have read hundreds over the years, really. But a lot of the books, you buy them and you read them and they're very inspiring, and at the end of it you don't even know, well, yeah, but what is enlightenment? Okay, what is it? What is this realization I'm trying to get? You get this moment of satori, enlightenment, realization, epiphany, whatever you want to call it. But what is it? What is the realization? The books don't tell you. A lot of them, they waffle about the subject, and they say, as I say, some inspiring things, and you feel like you've read something that makes you feel better. But you don't quite get it, so you go and buy another book. And there's the secret of that author's technique. They want you to buy their next book, and the one after that. So they don't tell you, actually, what you need to know. There are lots of self-help books like that. Lots and lots. There are some very good ones, and there are a lot of bad ones. So my recommendation is, when you find a book that doesn't tell you actually precisely what it is they're talking about, don't buy another book by that author. Don't encourage this sort of method. A lot of people are impressed by books like Deepak Chopra, people like that. I'm not impressed. I don't know whether he's a deliberate faker or not. I can't say, but my impression of his books are that he doesn't know what he's talking about. His English grammar is bad anyway, and his editors apparently are too feeble to correct it. Maybe they don't have any power, or maybe he does his own books, I don't know. But on top of that, he doesn't seem to express what he's talking about properly. And my impression is he doesn't know it. And anyway, whenever someone starts bringing in quantum mechanics and the quantum field theory into this kind of subject, I think a person's bullshit meter should go off right away. Chuck it, right? There are some meditation gurus who do the same thing. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi of the Transcendental Meditation school brings in the quantum field theory and other stuff, and well, you can look up bad news about him if you want to. Many people say the technique is good. I don't think it is. I'll talk about that a bit later. But these are the reasons, roughly, that I'm aware of why enlightenment is such a secret. The other secret about it, the other problem with it, is it's kind of a tough concept to get into a person's head. Being objective about your thoughts and inner experiences. It's difficult to get into people's heads, as I say, because we already think we are objective about our thoughts and inner experiences. We don't know what it means, basically, to be objective about it. And I'm going to say a bit about what enlightenment is not. I mean, how can you tell that you are not in the enlightened state? When you are thinking things and you are believing your thoughts, you are invested in your thoughts. When the thoughts are you, okay, you're walking along the street and you're thinking something, and you're getting all emotional or het up about it or angry about something, you are not in the enlightened state. You're in the enlightened state when you're thinking these thoughts, and at the same time you know that they are just some idle thoughts and there's nothing to them. You're in the enlightened state when you can think a thought, you can know it's unimportant, you can just let it go. This is the difference. When you are thinking, oh my God, I have to be clever so that people will think I'm great, so that people will like me, or I must not fail, I must succeed, or I must be good. Any thoughts about who you should be are not enlightenment. An enlightened person has discarded all such thoughts or ignores them. Because the enlightened person simply is. And when I've finished talking about this, I hope you'll understand this more. I'm just giving you a sort of a lead into it, so that we can talk about it some more. Or I can talk about it some more, I suppose, and give you a kind of a rounded view of it, so that you get the general idea properly. I want to talk more about thoughts, because the way the verbal mind works is central to the concept of enlightenment, because the point about enlightenment, to be objective about your thoughts, you must be aware of your thoughts as being separate from you. In my consciousness video a few days ago, last week I think it was, I said that you are not your thoughts, you are the awareness behind the thoughts. And this is really the key to enlightenment, is knowing that you are, although all of this structure, the body and the mind and all the rest of it, is all part of you in one sense, in another sense your awareness is something fundamentally different. It may be, for all we know, generated by the body. It may be purely some sort of physical phenomenon. I don't know. Nobody knows. Clearly, if you get rid of the brain, there's not much sign of any enlightenment activity, okay? But there are things we can't measure. We can't measure consciousness. We can only measure brain activity. So we don't have a handle on it. But we can certainly think and be objective about the way we're thinking. And so one of the exercises is meditation exercises in general really are a way of separating yourself from your thoughts. Our verbal thought, the mind, is the thing that is doing the verbal thinking. With this vocabulary, I'm introducing that concept. Mind is your verbal mind. We tend to believe or just think that we are thinking when we're thinking things. And this also gives those thoughts a lot of power, because we think something and we have an emotional reaction to what we think. And in a sense we are invested in those thoughts. We believe they are us. They are though just thoughts, and they are not us. The mind is the generator of the ego, the sense of who I am, or more importantly, who I am supposed to be. It's a set of thoughts, a bunch of patterns and thoughts which we repeat in our mind over and over again to control our own behaviour and determine the way we appear to the world and how we behave in front of certain people and so on, our personas. These are largely generated by thoughts, or at least reinforced by thoughts from our verbal mind. So we're going down the street thinking, oh, that's a nice tree. Now what shall I watch on TV tonight? What shall I have for dinner? Why is that person giving me a dirty look? Oh, what can I do about my job? I hate my job. I must do something about it. Oh, I must be a success. I mustn't fail. Why does everybody abandon me? These are the kinds of things that people think, and it churns around and around and around in their heads. In Broca's area, which is some little chunk of the brain just over here somewhere roughly. Broken area, I think. And it churns away seemingly endlessly. Gives us no rest for most people. And if you objectively listen, just sit back and listen to these thoughts as they come up, you gradually have the realization that most of these thoughts are garbage, or they're self-controlling. It probably helps to be aware of where they come from, actually, and what the language module is doing, and why is it doing this. I would say it's part of the brain that is interpreting our experiences, our inner experiences, our previous thoughts, our feelings, and interpreting the outer world to us. And it's also giving us advice on how to behave. In the same way as our visual cortex, photons come into the eye, it's interpreted by the visual cortex at the back of the head, and we are presented with a 3D representation of the world. Now the verbal brain does the same kind of thing, but it gives us a verbal representation of the world. So we are going along narrating our lives to ourselves, okay, with this verbal brain. And in the same way as you can ignore most of what's coming into your visual field and think about something else, you can ignore most of these thoughts. They're not necessary. Okay. They come from, primarily, the ones that churn around repeatedly, come from, typically from childhood. Teachers, parents, guardians, influential other people, celebrities, things we've read, things we've heard, older children, ideas we've had or decided upon as infants even, on how we're supposed to live and how we're supposed to be loved, what we need to be like, how to cross the road, all sorts of practical things. They're necessary for us as children. As children, we don't know enough about the world to be able to survive without having a whole lot of rules about how to live drummed into our heads. Okay, and our parents and teachers and everybody does that. And those rules, we repeat them to ourselves all the time. That's what's happening. They're being repeated, along with a narration about what's going on and what we're supposed to think about it. And as an adult, we already by now know how to live, okay? We know how to be good, we know how to be bad, we know how to cross the road, we know how to order some French fries at McDonald's, okay? We don't need to rehearse the thoughts in our heads. It's garbage, okay? We can do the same things without any of that, especially with a bit of practice, which is where meditation techniques come in. These thoughts that we think, I want to really emphasize this point because it's so important. I want you to listen to your own thoughts over time and understand how much of it is constructive and how much of it is not. Okay, it's like you can think a thought and then you can, well, if you're looking at it objectively, you can think sort of, do I need to think this thought? Is it helping me? Does it further my goals? If you don't, or if it isn't helpful, let it go. So, oh, I don't need to be thinking this kind of thing. Let it go. Your mind will learn. It will learn, but you need to not do it in a strenuous way. Don't go thinking, oh, you idiot, you don't need to think this kind of thought. You fool. That's your verbal mind doing what it's been taught to do. Some people have been telling you you're idiots, or you've been telling yourself you're idiot for years. But that makes you feel emotionally bad about yourself. And when you feel bad about something that you want to achieve, like you want to achieve like thinking sensible things, and then you think, oh, you idiot, when you see that, that's a bad feeling relating to what you're wanting to achieve. Your body is so constructed as to prevent you doing things which make you feel bad. So you cannot stop these bad thoughts by thinking bad thoughts about them or about yourself. You will find inner resistance. It's built into you to protect you from bad things. So when you realize this is a nonsense thought I'm thinking, you just say, oh, haha, okay, I don't need to think that anymore. Okay, just those sorts of things are not very useful to me anymore. I know all that already. It's okay. Let it go. Be like that. Be gentle with yourself. Be nice to yourself. Make it even feel good. Oh, look, haha, I'm thinking that again. It's okay. I don't need to. Just let it go. You can think, let it go to yourself gently, and your mind will, over the course of a couple of weeks, calm down a lot. Right? It'll learn the things that are no longer helpful to you. You teach yourself. Your brain is very, very quick and adaptable. It's because we, without realizing it, indulge in this mental garbage that it just repeats and repeats for years and years and years and ruins our lives, actually. I think there are people who reach the age of 30 and they just give up and they stop trying to improve themselves. They think perhaps it's not possible. And you can see as they get older and older, they get worse and worse. They're probably people who've never really examined their thoughts. As Socrates says, the unexamined life is not worth living. It applies to this. Don't give up. This is the secret, okay? Enlightenment is the way to constantly improve your life, at least on the subjective level. You may be stuck objectively, I don't know, in prison or whatever, in a bad environment. But in here, you can be anywhere, okay? So look at your thoughts and be thinking, do I need to think this? is this actually helping me achieve my goals? You might not know what your goals are. Thinking this question is a way of determining, even if it's your short-term goal of going to the supermarket or something, I don't know. Try to have better goals than that. And why bother with all this? Well, enlightenment makes you mentally powerful. Your thinking becomes focused. You can discover what your goals are. You can focus on your goals. Not all the time, obviously, but when you are in the mood for, or when it's time to think about a subject, you've developed some mental clarity and focus, and you can get into the zone much more easily. Okay. Now, how is this done? Those questions I found very helpful. The other is meditation techniques, of which we hear a lot these days, and people think, oh, what weird nonsense, what is this? Strange Eastern stuff, right? But when you look at the meditation techniques, the ones about enlightenment, I mean, there are others about training yourself in various ways, like increasing compassion and so on. But the meditation techniques that are about enlightenment pretty much are about silencing the verbal mind or observing the verbal mind, those two things. Because the idea is to teach you from your own personal experience that you are not your thoughts. When you do, say, the breathing meditation that the Buddhists have introduced to the world, you're sitting there breathing quietly and just being aware of the air coming in and out of your nose. Can you hear that thumping noise? I hope there's not some building work going on here. Anyway, I don't know. I'm looking at the microphone here, but I can't see the meter from where I'm sitting. When you are aware of the breathing going in and out of your nose, thoughts will come up. But you're focusing on the breathing. Okay? So you let the thoughts go. And if after a time you find you're thinking about something, you just say, oh, thinking about something, I'm supposed to be, let's just get back to this. But you can observe the kinds of thoughts that come up spontaneously from your verbal mind. It helps you be objective, it helps you realize these are just thoughts, but you are doing something else. They're not you. They are some autonomic function. They're not you. These techniques help. There's lots of different methods. Yoga is an Eastern one, and exercise, doing weights and stuff like that. Exercises, yoga, different types of yoga, tantra, I don't know, whatever. They're designed to bliss out the mind, or at least blot it out, depending on the technique, whilst you focus on your exercises, or focusing on posing in funny positions like they do. They're difficult to achieve, and you have to focus on it. And you don't use your verbal mind for it, right? It shuts down when you're doing it well. And you get into the zone. Athletes want to get into the zone. The zone is where you are one-pointed, as they would say. You're focused, you're doing the task. You're not thinking about how you appear. You're not thinking about what you've got to have for dinner later. You are one with the action, one with the experience. When you're in the zone, time flies, you enjoy it, you perform well. Exercise can do that, athletes, sports can do that, jogging, whatever. You can get into the zone. This is a meditation technique, because the mind is out of the question, it's out of it. The breathing meditation I've talked about, you breathe and just observe that. And thoughts come up and you let them go. You may note what they are, you may not. You're focusing on that. the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who I mentioned earlier, introduced Transcendental Meditation to the West, where people mentally repeat a mantra, which is generally a meaningless phrase. I mean, it means something in their language. There are increasing reports that people who do this transcendental meditation have a greater tendency towards some mental illnesses, schizophrenia, things of this sort. It seems to produce some sort of harm in some people. And I'm not entirely certain that the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was an honest sort, personally. You can read interesting stuff about him online, let's put it that way. I don't recommend this technique. It does blot out the verbal mind, but there seem to be side effects which are not present with the other techniques. I don't know whether he just made this method up or adapted it from some pre-existing method, but whatever, I think there are health implications with it which mean it is not good enough. Something like the breathing meditation or exercising and working at something are very, very natural things for us to do. Just sitting quietly and breathing is entirely innocuous, I think. And throughout all of these, when the verbal garbage comes up, you can be, oh look, so I don't need to think this, it's verbal garbage. When you're not strictly meditating, but some thinking is happening, you can be thinking, just, oh, do I need to think this? Is it helping me? Does it help me achieve my goals? That's how to do it. Now, this silencing of the verbal mind is not enlightenment. It's kind of a step on the way, because it helps you understand a sort of gut feeling how you are different from your thoughts. When there are no thoughts, you are still there. You still know what to do. You still know how to cross the road. You don't have to verbalise it all the time. You know how to live without putting it into words. Indeed, when you are trying to think of something to say, you don't even know where the words come from, actually, when you observe it closely. The words are generated to match your intent, and out they come, and then you hear you said the wrong thing and you correct it. Sometimes, okay? So it's about being conscious of what is really you and what is really not. It's taking control of the machinery of your mind in particular. Full enlightenment is where you can have all these thoughts going on and you never invest in them. You know all the time that they are just thoughts. You use your mental mind, your verbal mind, of course, for communicating with people. That is its clear biological function, for making noises and passing meaning to somebody. In childhood, we use it to repeat the lessons we've been given about how to live and how to survive and how to get along with people. And as I say, as adults, we've forgotten all that, and we need to remember that these are just things we already know, and we don't need to repeat them anymore. We can just be. We just are. And when you have that feeling of satori, enlightenment, realization, epiphany, where you intuitively grasp in a moment, it's just a thought, it's not me. Yes. That is the moment of enlightenment for people. When you feel that enlightening feeling, right? That epiphany. Then we backslide and we realise sometime later we haven't thought about it for a week. This is why people meditate daily, or fairly often if possible. Twice a day is typically recommended, but for 20 minutes. Whatever you can do. You can do a walking meditation. While you're walking anywhere on your way to work or something, you can just be listening to the environmental sounds, or you can be paying attention to the sensations in your body and the environment. And thoughts will come up and you let them go. Thoughts will come up. You might make a note, oh, I'm thinking about X, let it go. Just walk and be. Just be. And when you are not thinking these thoughts, which are invariably how you should live, or what's going to happen in the future, or what you're regretting in the past, something of this sort, past and future are no more. You are living in the present moment. Okay. This is the kind of thing these good books will explain to you, that the bad books will talk about as if it's something magic and not tell you what they mean or how to get there. I've told you how to get there. I mean, good books on the subject, there are some. John Kabat-Zinn writes some great books, and I'll stick a link down in the notes below this on YouTube. But you can look up his books, Kabat-Zinn. I think it's Jon for John as well. His books are good and practical. Maybe I'll do a particular video about the breathing meditation at some point, but I've probably told you enough for you to get started anyway. So why not have a go and see if you can, over time, become objective, or learn at least how to quieten your mind down enough so that the thoughts are not churning about all the time. You don't need to use your mind for everything. It has specific functions, use it only for that. It's good for logically working something out, it's good for communication. It's pointless for telling you how to live in the here and now. You know, right? It's pointless for spouting prejudices that you were taught as a kid, or for telling you who you should be or why you should act this way, with rules and churning around and around repetitively like some schizophrenic person mumbling in the street. I recognise those thoughts when I pass them and I hear them talking vehemently to themselves. These are the kinds of thoughts that other people have in their heads but don't speak it out loud, and they're not necessary. Okay. Bye for now.